Good afternoon to our senior high school learners who are watching via our FB Live at DepEd Tayo Tangub and Astral Academy. I am Ma'am Shermay S. Epong from Tangub City National High School.
And I am Mildred Bichayda from Tangub City National High School.
And we are your teacher facilitators today.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Sherry. How are you this afternoon, ma'am?
I'm good, Ma'am Mildred. How about you, Ma'am?
Well, I'm good also, Ma'am Sherry. And today is Wednesday, December 15, 2021, and we will be discussing topics about the subject Practical Research 2. With that, stay tuned, learners, because we are going to discuss the topic after a short break.
This is Astral Academy Cyber School. And we are back, still in Astral Academy Cyber School.
Alright, so this afternoon, we will be discussing topics on Practical Research 2, and the learning competencies are present data in tabular and graphical forms, and draw conclusions from research findings. So in the previous lesson, you were presented with options as to how you will gather your data. Once the data are collected, you need to encode and organize them for systematic purposes. This will be the focus of this lesson. So in this process, you will need to edit, code, tabulate, and summarize information through graphs and tables for presentation and interpretation purposes. So this process also allows the removal of unnecessary information.
Okay, Ma'am. So aside from that, Ma'am, you were also taught about the useful statistical techniques, no? Specifically in quantitative research, in analyzing your gathered data, no? sa percentage mean, standard deviation, correlation, and regression.
All right. So when we say data presentation and analysis, it is one of the most essential part in your research study. So take note, learners, that an excellent data presentation can be potential for winning the hearts of the panelists, the clients, or simply the readers. So no matter how good your data, if it is not well presented, you will not be able to earn the preferences of those whom you are trying to persuade. So remember, good data presentation matters.
Okay, yes, Ma'am, no, that is true. So remember to organize your data based on your research questions. So the data processing involves 3 actions. So na 3 actions. First, we have editing. Second, we have coding. And we also have tabulation. So all right, no? So we will discuss first the editing. Editing is a process wherein the collected data are checked. At this stage, handling data with honesty should be employed. And the main purpose of editing is for checking the consistency, accuracy, organization, and of course, clarity of the data. So the data editing can be done manually, ma'am, no? Like traditional tallying or with the assistance of a computer or combination of both.
Okay, you are right, Ma'am Sherry. So the second one is coding. So when we say coding, it is a process wherein the collected data are categorized and organized. So it is usually done in qualitative research. But in quantitative research, coding is done to assign numerical value to a specific indicator, especially if it is qualitative in nature. So we assign values or numerical value. So this numerical value will be helpful when you are going to analyze your data using statistical tool. So just make sure, learners, that the categories created are aligned with your research questions.
Okay, ma'am. And let's proceed to the third. No? So we have tabulation. Tabulation is a process of arranging data. So in many studies, table is used to do this process. So tabulation can done manually or electronically using MS Excel or Microsoft Excel. Again, organize the data based on your research questions. No? So before inputting your data into the table, it will be helpful to review your statistics class. No? I-review ang statistics class on how to arrange data according to the statistical techniques you will use. So again, learners, take note that the digital tool you are going to use will also matter on how you are going to tabulate your data, like Microsoft Excel. We also have the Minitab, ma'am, or other digital tools have different ways of entering your data. So correct arrangement of your data will be helpful during actual data analysis.
All right, so you are right, Ma'am Sherry. So actually, those are the important techniques in processing the data, no, the gathered data, to be specific. So we have, to recap, we have editing, coding, tabulation or tabulating. So now let's proceed to presentation and analysis of, or presentation and interpretation of data.
Okay, ma'am. So the next step after editing, coding, and tabulating the data is to present them into graphical or visual presentation, and that is called non-prose materials. Now, so the purpose of presenting the data in this way is to make the outlines of the results more presentable.
You're
So
right.
the non-prose materials are composed of graphs, kaning mga bars, ma'am, tables, charts, diagrams, illustrations. We also have the drawings and of course maps. So in quantitative research, kaning tables and graphs, ma'am, are usually used. So the standard format in presenting the data into a table or a graph, like its title, the labels, no, the contents, and many more, can be followed as well when school institution or institutional format is not provided. So, or identified. So, pwede ra pod sila, you may visit APA, CMOs, or MLA on how to do so.
Okay, so we have mentioned earlier the graphical or the visual presentation that is called as non-prose
Prose.
material. So they are actually composed of, as mentioned by Ma'am Sherry, graphs, bars, tables, charts, diagrams, illustrations, drawings, and maps. So this time, Ma'am Sherry, let us introduce first the very common, so which is the use of table or the tabular presentation. Okay, so the table helps summarize and categorize data using columns and rows. So just make sure that in this presentation, it contains headings that indicate the most important information about your study. All right, so learners, flash in your screen is an example of a tabular presentation of your data. So the example there is about data, no, about the teacher's performance rating in percentage. So you have there the column, no, the column there, teacher's performance rating. So you have there the scale, no? The outstanding, very satisfactory, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and poor. And the other column is the percentage. Meaning, gikuha ang percentage, so based on statistics, gikuha ang percentage, pila kabuok ang teacher nag-perform sila nga outstanding, no? Dayon, there are in that presentation also, no? You have there 65% of the teachers nga outstanding ang ilahang performance. Then 30% are very satisfactory and only 5% no are satisfactory performance of the teachers.
Okay, ma'am, no? So, to interpret the tables, ma'am, naatay gikinahanglang buhaton. So,
Okay.
one needs to do the following. First, analyze the connections among the details of the headings.
Yes.
And then the second one, we have checked the unusual pattern of the data and determine the reason behind this. And then the third one, we have begin the table number and the title. No? And then ang ikaupat, we have present the significant figures. So, naanaani ang overall results, the high and low values, or even the unusual pattern. And then refrain from repeating again what's inside the table. So, support your findings with literature and studies that confirms or contrast your results. And then, we also have established the practical implication of the results. So this will add value to the research findings, ma'am. And the last one, end with a brief generalization. Maunay dapat buhaton, ma'am.
Okay, so that is a very helpful tips, no? Para gikan ni Ma'am Sherry nga those are the important tips nga para mas nindot ang imuhang pag-interpret sa imuhang data or ang result sa imuhang study.
Yes.
Okay. So, a while ago we talked about tabular presentation. So, we have another common one, the graphical presentation. Okay, so the use of graphs. Okay, so when we say graphs, it focuses on how a change in one variable relates to another. Okay, so graphs use the bars, lines, circles, and even pictures in representing the data. So in interpreting the graph, it is the same process in the table, katong gi-mention ni Ma'am Sherry kaganina. So in choosing what type of graph to use, you are going to determine the specific purpose of the presentation. So dili lang ta basta-basta kay ganahan ko aning line graph. So there should be a specific purpose of the presentation. No, the line graph no illustrates trends and changes in data over time. While the bar graph, it illustrates comparisons, no? You compare the first variable to another variable, no? Comparisons of amounts and quantities. While the pie graph or the circle graph, it displays the relationship of parts to a whole.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So, natay example, no? First, we have the line graph, ma'am. So, again, the line graph shows trends and changes in data over time, ma'am.
Okay, so one of the graphical presentations is what we call as the line graph. So it shows the trends and changes in data over time. So learners, a flash in your screen is an example. So that is the first example, the use of the line graph. So for example, this is actually in the field of business, no? So the line graph there, so, like for example, the business would like to determine the performance of the sales produced from October to June, no? So, from there, from that graph, from that presentation, it will clearly, no, the researcher will clearly determine whether their sales produced are increasing or decreasing. Okay, well, the second one is the bar graph. Okay, so it is mentioned a while ago by Ma'am Sherry that the bar graph illustrates comparisons of amounts and quantities. Okay, so example, so birthday of students by month. So from there, from using the bar graph, you will automatically determine no sa pagpermiro pa lang kita nimo ay sa June daghan kaayo ang mag-birthday na ay pulo ka buok nga estudyante sa akong section nga mag-birthday sa June. Pero diha sa August isa ra ka buok, so gamay ra kaayo. So you will determine the comparison, no? Nabay daghan or gamay ba? Okay. And the third one, Ma'am Sherry, is the pie graph or the circle graph. Okay? It shows the relationship, no, between or relationship of parts to a whole. So from the a whole, so naay kanang portion nga like for example in the example there, so naa dia 50% good. Then only 20% very good, 15% ang excellent, and 15% pod ang weak. Okay? So through the use of this presentation, no, the researcher will interpret clearly. Then dali rasad nila ma-interpret ang given data. Okay?
Yes.
So, more discussions when we return. This is Astral Academy Cyber School.
And we are back, still, in Astral Academy Cyber School.
Okay, so before the break, we were able to present the important points to consider in the presentation and interpretation of data. So moving on, so now you already have the idea of what is the result and findings of your study. It is based on the presentation and interpretation of data. So you have to be very clear with your results and findings of your study, since that would be the basis for your conclusions, and which would create an impact to your readers.
Okay, yes, ma'am, no? So, it is also expected that at this point, no, so you have already drafted your summary of findings. So, as part of the research papers, summary of findings include the overall purpose, the main and specific research problem, the research methodology, and the major findings. So learners, make sure that this part is presented briefly, no, in straightforward manner. So the summary of findings is where you are going to generate your conclusions. So in this lesson, again, you are going to generate answers or conclusions as what you have interpreted from the data gathered from your research study.
All right, so you've mentioned about conclusion. So unsa day ng conclusion, Ma'am Sherry, no? So a conclusion is an important part of your research study. So when we say conclusion, it wraps up your writing by summarizing the main idea for your readers. So this brings your writing to a smooth close and creates well-written answers to your research questions. So you have to consider the main idea that you want to convey to your readers. So dapat na siya sense of closure in the study. So it usually starts answering the specific, moving to the general inquiry. So it must avoid further. So di na ka kinanglan mag-elaborate, which has already been done in the presentation of the results and discussion, and of course in the summary of findings.
Yes, ma'am. No? So, in the conclusion part, no new information is expected. Kay
Okay.
conclusion naman siya, ma'am. No? So, researchers reconsider the research questions and draw answers for this question. So, it is very important that the conclusions are limited within the main objective of the study and research questions presented at the beginning of the research paper. So, hence, conclusions are precise, no? Precise statement na siya that directly answers the stated research questions.
Okay, I agree, Ma'am Sherry. So, conclusion, show readers the value of your completely developed argument or thesis. So, it is not a summary. Dili siya summary of your work, but a listing of major outcomes derived from the study. So, therefore, do not state what has been done in your work. Instead, bring out the outcome of the results and discussions in terms of statements. So your conclusion is actually, take note learners, the conclusion is actually the answer to the main problem of your study.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So, a well-written conclusion provides you with important opportunities to demonstrate to the reader your understanding about the research problem. Mo na giingon, no, according to Banton 2005, this will include the following. First, present the last word on the issues or gaps raised in your paper. So just as the introduction gives a first impression to your reader, the conclusion offers a chance to leave a lasting impression. Mo na ang conclusion. You can do this by highlighting key points in your analysis or results, or by noting important or unexpected implication about applied to practice.
Okay, so the second one, Ma'am Sherry, is summarize your thoughts and convey the larger significance of the study. So take note of the term, no? The thoughts and convey the larger significance. So, ang iyang importance sa imuhang study. So the conclusion, it is an opportunity to concisely answer the so what question by placing the study within the context of past research about the topic you have investigated.
Yes.
And the third one, ma'am, is identify how a gap in the literature has been answered. Okay. Mao man gyud ni siya essence sa research.
Research.
So the conclusion can be where you describe how a previous identified gap in the literature, so and it is described in the literature section of your study, has been filled by your research.
Yes, ma'am. So the fourth is demonstrate the importance of your idea. So take note, no, the conclusion offers you the opportunity to elaborate on the impact and of course the significance of your findings. And then the last one is introduce possible new or expanded ways of thinking about the research problems. So this does not refer to introducing new information. Kay conclusion naman siya, which should be avoided of course. But to offer new insight, no, new insights and creative approaches for framing or contextualizing the research problems on the result of your study.
All right. So learners, so you have to take note on how to draw a conclusions of your study. So this is very helpful. So learners, take this example on how to draw a conclusion. So you have there the statement of the problem. So example ni siya. So na actually ato na ning gihatag in our previous discussion. So this study aimed to know the effects of the new stall's location to the sales of the vendors in the XYZ public market. Specifically, this sought answers to the following questions. So in that study, the questions, there are 4 questions. So the first one, what are the effects of the new location to the convenience of the customers? Second, what are the effects of the new location to the convenience of the vendors? Third, how intense is the competition among vendors in the new location? And last, what is the subsequent effect of the new location of stalls to the sales of the vendors? So at this time, based on your research findings, so formulate your conclusion. So your take note nga ato nang gi-mention kaganina, your conclusion is actually the answer to the main problem of the study. So mao gyud nay pinakahinumduman kay usahay ra ba ang learners moingon nga lisod kaayo maghimog conclusion. So dapat ang focus, ang conclusion dapat mag-focus siya sa main problem. Okay? So Ma'am Sherry?
Yes, ma'am. So from that problem, ma'am, naatay conclusion, no? Nakadraw tag conclusion. So from the summary of findings, the following conclusions are shown. So first, the vendors and customers feel convenience with the new location of stalls. We also have competition is intense among sellers in the new location because of the close arrangement of the stalls between each other. And then, the vendors' sales decrease a bit because of the intense competition among them.
All right. So it is very clear, Ma'am Sherry, no,
Yes.
from the research question. So ang iyahang atong conclusion ning derive ta didto, no, ang ato ang tubag. So
Ang tubag,
pag-conclude
yes,
nato base sa tubag nga atong nakuha from the respondents. So
yes.
please take note that there are different ways of formatting your conclusion. So depende siya, Ma'am Sherry, sa institutional format.
Yes.
Naay institution that they use or ang ilang format sa paghimo sa conclusion is in paragraph form. So
Yeah.
acceptable na siya.
Yes.
Then there are also institution that they use numbered, no, by number para
By-
sa atong gi-example
Yes,
ka
yes, ma'am.
ganina. So magdepende siya sa school or sa institution kung unsa ang ilahang format. All right, so I hope that you were able to follow and understand our lessons, and I am expecting you all learners that you will apply what you have learned from our discussion to your own research study. Kay hapit na gyud ta mahuman ani.
Yes, ma'am. So, of course, ma'am, no, I guess learners, no, you were given a clear discussion on the topic, right? So at this point, we will give to our learners and activity, no? So in your self-learning materials, kindly check it, naatay portion dito katong activity section. So directions, based from your own data analysis and interpretation in the research study that you have conducted, you draw your conclusion. So refer to the example given, show your statement of the problem. So in doing your activity, remember this, learners, you have to go over the content of your SLMs, no, for you to be guided.
All right, so thank you, Ma'am Sherry. Okay, reminders to all our learners, our grade 12 learners, regarding the attendance marker. Actually, it's the second attendance marker. Okay,
Yes.
so to our senior high school stars, we hope that you acquire knowledge on the topics being shared to all of you. If you have any questions or comments about the topics, please write it down below.
Yes.
So this has been Mildred B. Bichayda from Tangub City National High School.
And Ma'am Sherry May S. Epong, again from Tangub City National High School.
All right, so have a productive day ahead and stay safe, everyone. This is Astral Academy Cyber School.
Bye!
Tayo, tayo na. Buksan ang mga radyo, lina at matuto sa mga aral sa mundo. Tayo, tayo na. Tumutok na sa TV, mag-aral ng maigi to get the lessons easily. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. Tayo, tayo na. Let's come and learn together, supporting one another. We love, we care, we share. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na.
the Department of Education, Division of Tangub City, in partnership with the local government unit of Tangub, presents Ang Tangkub, transforming advancement in the new normal, guiding K-12 learners under broadcast media, crafted in response to the need of making education possible and accessible to students at the comfort of their homes. It covers the most essential competencies thematically layered in drama plays, which were originally written, directed, and performed to see to it that education is securely provided. This is Ang Tangkub.
It's Tangkub, Tangkub, Tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fun, masaya. Tugtog na.
Hello and good day, grade 7 learners. Welcome to the 6th episode for second quarter of Ang Tangkub, TV-based instruction. You have learned in the previous episode the types of reproduction, which are asexual and sexual. Now, let's go deeper by describing the method or process of fertilization, which happens only in sexual reproduction. As mentioned earlier, this episode will help you describe the process of fertilization in sexual reproduction. Fertilization is the union of sperm cell in male and egg cell in female. Sexual reproduction is a form of reproduction that involves two parents. Humans and all animals that reproduce sexually have reproductive cells called gametes. Gametes are formed during meiosis, in the form of sperm produced within the testes of males, or eggs produced within the ovaries of females. Under favorable conditions, sperm and egg cell unite in a process known as fertilization. The resulting fertilized egg or zygote contains genes from both parents. Hence, the offspring have unique combinations of genes. Offspring of sexual reproduction differ genetically from their siblings, and species extinction is highly unlikely. There are two types of animal reproduction, namely external and internal reproduction. External fertilization or reproduction characterized by the release of both sperm and egg into an external environment. Many aquatic animals simply release their eggs and sperm into the water, which become the medium where the sperm swims to unite with an egg. Internal fertilization or reproduction, male deposits his sperm directly into the female's body, where the sperm cells swim up the reproductive tract until they encounter a mature egg in an oviduct or fallopian tube where fertilization occurs. This type of reproduction processes offspring in any of the following ways: oviparous, ovoviviparous, and viviparous. Oviparous animals are female animals that produce eggs or lay eggs which develop and hatch outside the maternal body. Examples are chicken, crocodile, duck, birds, and so on. Ovoviviparous animals, these are female animals that also produce eggs, but these eggs are hatched inside the mother's body. Thus, they are born live. Examples are sharks, fishes, and some snakes. Viviparous animals are those in which fertilization and embryo development occur inside the individual instead of producing or laying eggs. They produce live young. This time, let's discuss the process of fertilization in plants. We all know that some species of plants reproduce asexually, and sexual reproduction in plants is present in angiosperms or flowering plants. Let's first discuss the structure of plants important for fertilization. We have the sepals, petals, stamens, which are the male reproductive organ, carpel or pistil, the female reproductive organ. Stamen consists of a long stalk called filament and a swollen head called anther. Consist of numerous tiny pollens, which are the male reproductive cells. Pistil consists of a sticky structure called stigma attached to the tube-like structure called style. It ends in a swollen part called ovary, and this contains the female reproductive cells. When pollens from the anthers of the stamen join the ovules in the ovary, this is called fertilization. This fertilization forms the seed inside the ovary. Later in the process, this ovary will become fruit. Pollination is the process in which pollens are transferred from the anther to the stigma, thereby enabling fertilization in plants. Pollination occurs in various ways. Petals of flowers have bright colors and strong fragrance that attract insects and other animals. Some insects feed on the nectar present in the flower. While doing so, the pollens from the anther get attached to the body of the insects, and when these insects visit another flower for nectar, pollens get to the sticky top of the pistil and goes down through the style reaching to the ovules of the ovary, which then results to fertilization. And the ovules then forms seed. When pollens reach the stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. When pollens reach the stigma of different flower of the same kind, it is called cross-pollination. Hope you learned something new today, kiddos. Now, kindly get your activity sheet number 6 in Science 7. Let's read the directions. Activity 1. Directions. Write your answers in 2 to 5 sentences in each question or statement. Please prepare grade 8 learners for Science 8 is coming next. This has been Ms. Bernalyn Carpio, your science teacher for today. Always remember to keep reading, keep watching, and keep learning at home. Bye!
Hello, grade 8 learners! Welcome to our 6th episode for the second quarter of Ang Tangku. Last episode, you have learned about tracing the path of typhoons that enter the Philippine area of responsibility using a map and tracking data. Today, we will compare and contrast comets, meteors, and asteroids. Our solar system's small bodies, such as comets, meteors, and asteroids, pack big surprises. They are leftovers from the formation of our solar system 4.6 billion years ago. While the planets and moons have changed over the millennia, many of these small chunks of ice, rock, and metal have not. They are a lot like a fossil record of planetary evolution. The shooting stars that we can see in the sky is actually not a star, but it is another celestial object or thing that is observable in the universe. Let's start our discussion with comets. Comets are fuzzy, luminous big dirty snowball composed of rock dust wrapped around a big ball of ice. When frozen, they are the size of a small town. Comets orbit the sun just like planets and asteroids do, except a comet usually has a very elongated orbit. They move very slowly but remain in our sight for weeks before disappearing out of view. As the comet gets closer to the sun, some of the ice starts to melt and boil off, along with particles of dust. These particles and gases make a cloud around the nucleus, called a coma. One part of the comet is the so-called head. It is composed of a nucleus and coma. It becomes bigger as more gas and dust are released from the coma. The radiation from the sun pushes the dust particles away from the coma, causing it to form a dust tail, which in some comets can reach up to 150 million kilometers in length. Astronomers classify comets based on the duration of their orbits around the sun. There are short-period comets that takes 200 years or less to complete one orbit. Example is the Halley's Comet that appears once every 76 years. On the other hand, there are also long-period comets that takes more than 200 years to complete one orbit. Example is the comet Hale-Bopp that takes 2,533 years to complete one orbit. There are also single apparition comets, which permanently exit the solar system after a single pass of the sun. Scientists think that short-period comets may have come from Kuiper belt beyond the Neptune's orbit, whose gravitational interactions with the outer planets allow them to be dragged inward. On the other hand, long-period comets are thought to come from Oort cloud, which are very far and can be pulled inward by the gravitational pull of passing stars. The current number of known comets is 3,711. Comets leave a trail of debris behind them that can lead to meteor showers on Earth. For instance, the Perseid meteor shower occurs every year between August 9 and 13, when Earth passes through the orbit of Swift-Tuttle comet. Now let's proceed with asteroids. Asteroids are simply rocky or metallic objects orbiting the Sun in the same way the planets orbit. However, asteroids are hard to see because they are reflecting little light and they're always moving. Although asteroids orbit the Sun like planets, they are much smaller than planets. That's why they are called minor planets or planetoids. There are lots of asteroids in our solar system. Most of them are found in the main asteroid belt, a region between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Just like comets, asteroids are thought to be leftovers from the formation of our solar system. Now, do you think all asteroids are the same? That's right. Asteroids are not the same, since they are formed in different locations at different distances from the Sun. Here are a few ways that they differ. Asteroids aren't all round like planets. They have jagged and irregular shapes. Some asteroids are hundreds of miles in diameter, but many more are as small as pebbles. Most asteroids are made of different kinds of rocks, but some have clays or metals, such as nickel and iron. Take note that the largest asteroid is Ceres. It is about 930 kilometers in diameter. Can you imagine how huge that is? Further, Ceres, being the largest asteroid, is considered as dwarf planet. A larger object such as a planet could pull an asteroid out of orbit. And once an asteroid is captured by the gravitational pull of a planet, it may become a satellite of that planet. Many astronomers believe that the two satellites of Mars, Phobos and Deimos, are captured asteroids. If it is not because the giant planet Jupiter that pulls the asteroids outward, large asteroids would constantly be hitting Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Earth, which are called the inner planets. Since the asteroid belt is closer to Jupiter than it is to the Sun, Jupiter exerts more gravitational pull on the asteroids than the Sun, resulting in the asteroids to keep in orbit away from the inner planets. So we're done exploring about comets and asteroids. Now, let's move on to meteors. Meteors are space rocks or meteoroids that enter Earth's atmosphere. In other words, a meteor is what happens when a meteoroid burns up upon entering Earth's atmosphere, creating a streak of light. Many people considered meteor as falling star or shooting star. There are three main sources of meteoroids. Many are leftovers from the dust that formed from the solar system. Others are fragments of asteroids, broken off in collisions. Huge meteor showers, caused by many meteoroids entering the atmosphere in one go, are caused by comets. They occur when the Earth's atmosphere passes through a stream of small particles left behind in the comet's tail. The color of the observable light emitted by a meteor may depend on the chemical composition of the meteoroid. Orange-yellow if sodium, yellow if iron, blue-green if magnesium, violet if calcium, and red if it is atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen. There are also more interesting facts about meteors. There are millions of meteors in the Earth's atmosphere every day. Meteors can become visible as high as 120 kilometers above Earth. Meteors can give off various colors when they burn, which is associated with their composition. Meteors that burn brighter than usual are called fireballs. Most fireballs go unseen because they occur over the ocean or during daylight hours. Meteors usually burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. If a meteor produces a sound, it is called a sonic boom and is typically heard seconds after the meteor becomes visible. Although meteors have existed since ancient times, they were not believed to be from our solar system until 1833. Usually, meteors are the size of pebbles and no larger than a baseball. As a summary, comets, asteroids, and meteors have different characteristics and have a significant relationship from each other. The table shows the difference among comets, asteroids, and meteors. Comets are fuzzy, luminous big dirty snowball composed of rock dust wrapped around a big ball of ice. Asteroids are rocky or metallic objects orbiting the Sun the same way that planets orbit. Lastly, meteors are space rocks or meteoroids that enter Earth's atmosphere. That's it for today, grade 8 learners. This time, kindly get your activity sheet number 6 in Science 8. Activity 1, Directions. Compare or cite the similarities and contrast or cite the differences of comets, meteors, and asteroids by filling in the given Venn diagram. Use your time wisely. God bless.
Hey there, grade 9 learners! Welcome to the 6th episode for second quarter of ang Tangkub, TV-based instruction. In the previous lesson, the learners were introduced in the concept of mass. This can be a good foundation to start the mole concept. Mole concept is strategically introduced by banking on the prior knowledge of the learners. Example of organic compound alcohol, which is composed of the different elements or atoms. In order to get the corresponding mass of a certain element in alcohol, we need to use the mole concept. Mole, by definition in chemistry, is a standard scientific unit for measuring large quantities of very small entities such as atoms, molecules, or other specified particles. A mole is a quantity that allows chemists to convert from the atomic scale to macroscopic scale. The mole concept is a convenient method of expressing the amount of a substance. Any measurement can be broken down into two parts: the numerical magnitude and the units that the magnitude is expressed in. For example, when the mass of a ball is measured to be 2 kilograms, the magnitude is 2, and the unit is kilogram. When dealing with particles at an atomic or molecular level, even 1 gram of a pure element is known to contain a huge number of atoms. This is where the mole concept is widely used. It focuses on the unit known as a mole, which is a count of a very large number of particles. The number 6.02214.076 times 10 to the power of 23 is popularly known as the Avogadro's constant, or Avogadro's number, and is often denoted by the symbol Na, or N subscript A. The elementary entities that can be represented in moles can be atoms, molecules, monoatomic or polyatomic ions, and other particles such as electrons. This number is a tribute to the Italian scientist Amedeo Avogadro. Let's have this example. 1 mole of a pure carbon-12, 12C, will have a mass of exactly 12 grams and will contain 6.02214.076 times 10 to the power of 23 Na, number of 12C atoms. The number of moles of a substance in a given pure sample can be represented by the following formula, written like this: N small letter n is equal to big letter N over or divided by big letter N subscript A, where N is the number of moles of the substance or elementary entity, big N is the total number of elementary entities in the sample, and N subscript A is the Avogadro's constant. The number of moles of a molecule may not always be equal to the number of moles of its constituent elements. For example, a mole of water contains Na number of H2O molecules. However, each water molecule contains 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Therefore, 1 mole of H2O contains 2 moles of hydrogen and 1 mole of oxygen. Sample problem number 1. How many molecules are there in 4 moles NaCl or table salt? To answer this question, you have to consider this. 1 mole is equivalent to 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 particles. Using the dimensional analysis approach, you will be able to convert the number of moles to its equivalent amount in the number of particles. 4 moles NaCl or table salt times 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 molecules over 1 mole of NaCl. Cancel out mole NaCl to 4 moles NaCl. It is equal to 2.41 times 10 to the power of 24 molecules NaCl. Now, let's proceed to the molar mass of an element after getting or solving for the moles. But before that, let's unlock first the different terminologies such as atomic mass, molecular mass, and molar mass. The atomic mass of an element is the mass of one atom of the element expressed in atomic mass units or AMU. It accounts for the abundance of the various isotopes or varieties of the element and assigns an average value to the mass of one atom of the element. For example, the atomic mass of carbon found in your periodic table of elements is 12.011 atomic mass units. Since carbon samples generally contain 98.89% of the carbon-12 isotope, 1.11% of carbon-13, and trace amounts of carbon-14. However, the atomic masses of these isotopes are different. The atomic mass of a carbon-12 atom is 12 atomic mass units, but that of a carbon-13 atom is 13 AMU. The atomic mass of an element is roughly enough to the sum of all the protons and neutrons present in its nucleus. The molecular mass of an element is the sum of the atomic masses of all its constituent elements. This quantity is also represented in terms of atomic mass units. Therefore, the molecular mass of water is equal to the sum of the atomic masses of its constituents, hydrogen and oxygen. The atomic mass of hydrogen is 1.00794 AMU, and that of oxygen is 16. Since water molecules contain 2 hydrogen atoms and only 1 oxygen atom, the molecular mass of H2O is 18.0159 AMU. The molar mass of a substance is defined as the total mass of 1 mole of the substance. It is numerically equal to the atomic mass and often represented in terms of grams per mole. However, the SI unit of this quantity is kilograms per mole. Molar mass can be represented by the following formula. Molar mass of a substance is equal to mass of the substance in grams over or divided by number of moles. Example number 1. Find the molar mass of water H2O. Atomic mass can be found in the periodic table of elements. Atomic mass for hydrogen is 1.008 grams per mole and oxygen is 16 grams per mole. Since there are 2 atoms of hydrogen, multiply the atomic mass by 2 and that of oxygen by 1. Therefore, the molar mass of H2O or water is 18.016 or 18.02 grams per mole. Example number 2. Find the molar mass of ammonia or NH3. atomic mass for nitrogen is 14.0 grams per mole, and hydrogen is 1.008 grams per mole. Since there are 3 atoms of hydrogen, multiply the atomic mass by 3 and that of nitrogen by 1. Therefore, the molar mass of ammonia or NH3 is equal to 17.034 grams per mole. Hope you learned big time today, learners. Now, kindly get your activity sheet number 6 in Science 9. Directions. Fill in each box with the correct answer. Take your time and think wisely, learners. You can do it! Get ready, grade 10 learners, for Science 10 is coming next. This has been Ms. Bernalyn Carpio, your science teacher for today. Always remember to keep reading, keep watching, and keep learning at home. Bye!
You have learned about predicting the qualitative characteristics of lenses, as well as the practical applications of mirrors and lenses. Today, we will explain the basic principles of magnetism. The concept of generator can be traced back from the concept of electricity and magnetism. For today's episode, we will focus on the principle of magnetism. Magnetism is one aspect of the combined electromagnetic force. It refers to the physical phenomena arising from the force caused by magnets. Magnets are objects that produce fields that attract or repel other objects. In other words, a substance that possesses magnetic properties is a magnet. All materials have the property of being attracted or repelled. There are different classifications of magnetic substances. One is a ferromagnetic substance. The ferromagnetic substances are those materials which exhibit strong magnetism. Examples are iron, steel, nickel, and cobalt. Ferromagnetism gets its name from the word ferrous, which means iron, which was the first metal known to show attractive properties to magnetic fields. Ferromagnetism is a unique magnetic behavior that is exhibited by ferromagnetic materials. There are wide applications of ferromagnetic materials in the industry. They are widely used in devices like an electric motor, generators, transformers, telephones, loudspeakers, and magnetic stripe at the back of credit cards. Another is paramagnetic substance. Paramagnetic materials are materials that tend to get weakly magnetized or slightly attracted by strong magnets. Examples are wood, aluminum, platinum, and oxygen. There are also diamagnetic substances such as table salt, mercury, zinc, and gold. Diamagnetic materials are those that some people generally think of as non-magnetic. Substances that are already magnetized are called magnetite. These are called natural or permanent magnets. Lodestones are permanent magnets. An alnico-magnet is a permanent magnet containing aluminum, nickel, and cobalt. Permanent magnets are used in radio speakers, audio-video devices, and other electrical appliances. On the other hand, there are materials that can be made into magnets. These are called artificial magnets. Artificial magnets are made by induced magnetism. When a piece of unmagnetized magnetic material touches or is brought near the pole of a permanent magnet, it becomes a magnet itself. Temporary magnets are those of soft iron that are easy to magnetize and they lose their magnetic property very easily. Electromagnet is an example of a temporary magnet. It is a magnet that can be switched on and off. It is also used to lift heavy objects in industrial sites and in forwarding businesses. Now, let's try to analyze this picture. What have you observed from the labels in the picture? That's right. There are letters N and S, which indicate the north and south magnetic pole. Well, every magnet has two poles. The areas of greatest magnetic force are called magnetic poles. The end of the magnet that points north is called the north magnetic pole or N pole, and the end that points south is the south magnetic pole or S pole. You can produce a magnet with only one pole or monopole. Therefore, if a magnet is broken into pieces, each piece will have its north and south pole. It is important to remember that the rule of magnets is that opposites attract. In other words, like poles repel and opposite poles attract. When you place the north pole of one magnet near the south pole of another magnet, they are attracted to one another. When you place like poles of two magnets near each other, such as north to north or south to south, they will repel each other. After knowing the rules of magnets, let's talk about magnetic domain, magnetic field, and magnetic force. As we have discussed earlier, ferromagnetic materials such as iron, steel, nickel, and cobalt have the tendency to magnetize. In ferromagnetic materials, smaller groups of atoms band together into areas called domains, in which all the electrons have the same magnetic orientation. Magnetic domains are clusters of many atoms which can be thought of as tiny magnets. Before, when the material is unmagnetized, the domains are not lined up in a definite way. In other words, they are randomly arranged. After, when the material is magnetized, the domains line up in a definite pattern. All the north poles point in one direction and the south poles in the other. Surrounding a magnet is the space in which it affects magnetic materials, and this is called the magnetic field. A field is an area or region where an object experiences a force. For example, when an object is lifted to a height and dropped, it falls down. This object is pulled down by the Earth's gravitational force. So, there is a gravitational field that pulls the object down. Similarly, a magnet has a magnetic field around it. Thus, when a magnet is placed near a ferromagnetic material, the material experiences a force and gets attracted towards the magnet. This means that the magnetic field is strong near the magnet and becomes weak far away from the magnet. The same is true with magnetic force. The closer you bring two magnets together, the stronger the force between them becomes. Move them apart and the force gets weaker. Thus, if you move them farther from each other, you will eventually feel no force. We can demonstrate this magnetic field quite easily by putting a thin piece of glass over the magnet and sprinkling some iron filings onto the glass. The iron filings will set themselves into lines, forming a definite pattern. Another striking effect of a magnet is that if we hang it up in such a way that it can rotate, it will always set itself to a point in a certain direction, and that direction is towards north. This property of a magnet is the basis of the magnetic compass, on which all navigation at sea depends. The magnetic needle in the compass is made using a tiny magnet, and it is pivoted so that it can move freely. A magnetic compass needle always points to the north. We call this red end as the north-seeking pole, or the north pole of the magnet. The other end is the south-seeking pole, or the south pole of the magnet. Why do you think that the magnetic compass always points to the north and south direction even if we shake or move it? That's right. It's because the Earth has a magnetic field, and so the magnetic needle is aligning itself along the Earth's magnetic field. The interesting part here is that south pole of the Earth's magnet is along the north geographical location. That's why the north magnetic compass is pointing to the north geographical location for the rule of magnet to be followed, which is opposite attracts. In addition, the north pole of the Earth's magnet is along the south geographical location. Thus, the south pole of the magnetic compass is pointing towards the south. Recall that the Earth's outer core is made up of nickel and iron, which produce eddy currents. That is considered as the principal source of the Earth's magnetic field. We can also use the magnetic compass to plot the magnetic field lines of the bar magnet. The direction of the magnetic compass is the direction in which the north pole of a magnet experiences a force. As you can see, the north pole of the compass is being pushed away by the north pole of the bar magnet. So, the direction of the magnetic field is in the direction as shown in the illustration. Moving the compass to a different point around the magnet generates another direction for the magnetic field line. If we move the compass to the other end of the bar magnet, specifically to the south pole, we can observe the red needle pointing towards it. By joining these lines using curved line, we have just plotted one magnetic field line. By repeating these steps, we can plot more magnetic field lines just like this. As you can see, the magnetic field lines are going from the North Pole to the South Pole of the magnet. Magnets have been proving its worth every day with its incredible function by making the most extraneous task easier. Magnets are used to make a tight seal on the doors to refrigerators and freezers. They power speakers in stereos, earphones, and televisions. That's it for today, grade 10 learners. This time, kindly get your activity sheet number 6 in Science 10. Activity 1, Directions. Encircle the letter of the best answer. Activity 2, Directions. Answer the following questions in at most 3 sentences. Use your time wisely, learners. Good luck and God bless.
learned the most essential lessons you need to master. See you on our next episodes. This has been Ang Tangkub.
It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fun, masaya. Tutok na. Tayo na. Buksan ang mga radyo, lina at matuto sa mga aral sa mundo. Tayo na. Tumutok na sa TV, mag-aral ng maigi to get the lessons easily. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. Tayo na. Let's come and learn together, supporting one another. We love, we care, we share. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fun, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkub, tangkub, tangkub time. We learn
Hello and good afternoon to our junior high school learners. Welcome to our program, the Astral Academy Cyber School. And we are live via DepEd Tayo Tanggol Facebook page, Astral Academy Facebook page, and Astral Academy YouTube channel. I am Teacher Louie from Silangit National High School.
And I am Ma'am Mary Chris Malalis from Bintana Integrated School.
Okay, so today, Ma'am Mary Chris, so atong i-discuss nga subject is
Science.
Science 7.
Okay, so Science 7, tama yun na siya sa Science 10. So we will start with our Science 7 no, after this short break.
This is
Astral Academy Cyber School.
And we are back still here in Astral Academy
Cyber
Cyber
School.
School. So, ang ato ang attendance marker makita na dira sa inyong screen.
So
Ang
that is
ikaduha
basically
nga,
our second, no?
Nga.
Second attendance marker.
attendance marker. So, today, Ma'am Mary Chris, ang atong, this time, Ma'am Mary Chris, tong i-discuss is Science 7. And our learning competency is
Describe the process of fertilization. So we have there the keyword, no, Sir Luigi, fertilization.
okay.
So you have learned in your previous episode the types of reproduction, which are the asexual and sexual reproduction. So let's go deeper by describing the method or process of fertilization, which happens only in sexual reproduction.
Okay, so fertilization, as shown on your screen, is the union of sperm in male and egg cell for female. Sexual reproduction is a form of reproduction that involves two parents, okay, humans and all animals that reproduce sexually have reproductive cells called gametes. Okay, gametes are formed during meiosis in the form of sperm produced within the testes of males or eggs produced within the ovaries of females.
Okay, so under favorable conditions, no, sperm and egg cell unite. So
Okay, so we will be right back, Ma'am Mary Chris, no, after this short break. This is Astral Academy Cyber School.
okay, to continue our discussion, no, Sir Luigi, under favorable conditions, sperm and egg cell unite, as shown on your screens right now, and it is a process known as fertilization. So the resulting fertilized egg or zygote contains genes from both parents. So the offspring have unique combinations of genes. So offspring of sexual reproduction differ genetically from their siblings, and species extinction is highly unlikely. So there are two types of fertilization. We call it external and internal fertilization.
Okay, so external fertilization, the gametes are released outside by the male or the sperm
Sperm.
and female ova, and they fused outside the body to form the zygote.
So we have key term there, Sir Luino, externals, meaning
Yes.
sa gawas.
So yung characterized by the release of both sperm and egg into external environment. Many aquatic animals simply release their eggs and sperm into the water, which become the medium where the sperm swims to unite with an egg. Grabe.
Yes.
Sa gawas sila mag-unite, Ma'am Mary
Yes, so
Grace.
the fertilization again happens in the external environment, and this is common in fish.
Okay.
So we
Okay,
also
another
have
is internal fertilization. The fusion of the gametes occur inside the female body, and the zygote, the fertilized egg, is formed inside the female body.
Okay, so we have there the key term internal, meaning inside. So in internal fertilization, male deposits his sperm directly into the female's body, where the sperm cells swim up to the reproductive tract until they encounter a mature egg in an oviduct or fallopian tube where fertilization occurs. So this type of reproduction produces offspring in any of the following ways. So it could be oviparous, it could also be ovoviviparous, and we also have the viviparous. So let's come to know each of them, no, Sir Louis?
Okay, the oviparous animal are born from an egg. So
Okay.
example ana is
Of course, common, chicken. Oh, egg hatching animals.
another one we have turtles,
Yes, we also have crocodiles, birds.
of course, snakes.
Yes. So oviparous animals, again as shown on your screens, are female animals that produce eggs or lay eggs which develop and hatch outside the maternal body. So again, examples there are shown on your screen: the chicken, crocodile, duck, birds, and so on.
Shown on your screen right now is an example of ovoviviparous animals. These are female animals that also produce eggs, but these eggs are hatched inside the mother's body. Thus, they are born live.
Yes. So
Examples are the sharks, fishes, and
some snakes. So mo ni kalahian nilang duha, Sir Louis, no? Ang isa is nasa gawas ni hatch, and the other one, the ovoviviparous, is nasa inside niya sa sulod. And we also have the third type of internal fertilization, which is viviparous animals, which is shown on your screen right now. These are fertilization and embryo development occurs inside the individual. So instead of producing or laying eggs, they produce live young. Of course, this is very common in human beings.
Okay, all right. So we are done with the process of fertilization
Fertilization.
in animals, Ma'am Chris. This time, let's discuss the process of fertilization in plants. We all know that some species of plants reproduce asexually, and sexual reproduction in plants is present in angiosperm or
Flowering plants.
Let's discuss first the structure of plants important for fertilization.
So again, no, dili lang yun ang mga animals ang makaproduce sexually, but some plants also, especially the flowering plants, do reproduce sexually. So we have there the different parts of the flower, which is basically the reproductive organ of the plant. So as shown on your screens right now, we have there the parts of flowering plants, which are very important for fertilization. So we have the sepals, petals, stamen, which is the male reproductive organ. We also have carpel or pistil, the female reproductive organ. So the stamen, which is again the male reproductive organ, consists of a long stalk, which is called filament, and a swollen head, which is called anther, consists of numerous tiny pollens, which are the male reproductive cells. So again, the male reproductive cells are called pollens. So pistil consists of a sticky structure called stigma attached to a tube-like structure called style. It ends in a swollen part called ovary, and this contains the female reproductive cell, which is ovule. So again, naadira sa flower tanan di ay makita si male reproductive cell as well as the female reproductive cell.
Okay, in the illustration shown in your screen, when pollens from the anthers of the stamen join the ovules in the ovary, this is called fertilization.
Yes.
Okay, this fertilization forms the seed inside ovary. Later in the process, this ovary will become fruit. Okay. Pollination is the process in which pollens are transferred from the anther to the stigma, thereby enabling fertilization in plants.
That's right.
Pollination occurs in various ways, Ma'am Mary Chris. Petals of flowers have bright colors and strong fragrance that attract insects and other animals.
Okay, mao nang ang atog yung pollinators, Sir Luigi, no, they are insects, butterfly, mo gina sila ang mga pollinators nato. So as shown on your screens right now, some insects feed on the nectar present in the flower. So while doing so, the pollens from the anther get attached to the body of the insects. And when these insects visit another flower for nectar, so pollens get to the ovules of the ovary, which then results to fertilization. And the ovules then form seed. So when pollens reach the stigma of some flower, it is called, or of the same flower rather, it is called self-pollination, meaning to say the same flower lang siya, the pollen will reach to the stigma of that same flower, mo ng self-pollination. However, when pollens reach the stigma of different flower of the same kind, it is called cross-pollination, meaning to say nitabok. Okay, so for your activity, grade 7 learners, you have to analyze the given questions there in your self-learning materials for you to answer it properly. We will be back after this short break. This is Astral Academy Cyber School.
And we are back still here in Astral Academy Cyber School.
Okay, so we're done with our Science 7, Sir Louis.
So this time we have Science 8. And our learning competency is compare and contrast comets, meteors, and asteroids.
So in this learning competency, our grade 8 learners, you will learn how comets, meteors, and asteroids differ from each other as well as their similarities. So these three planetary objects were believed to be remnants of the formation of the solar system. So in other words, Sir Louis, mga salin-salin sa mga
So wala
planets.
siya nabuo nga planet.
Yes. So looking back to the formation of the solar system, we have there the Big Bang Theory, in which a solar system was once a hot, big, dense, single point that continuously expanded. So along with expansion, planets were formed as well as the other small masses which could be called comets, meteors, or asteroids.
Okay, let's start our discussion with the comets. Comets are luminous, big, dirty snowball composed of rock dust wrapped around a big ball of ice. When frozen, they are the size of a small town,
So yung anak
just like
kadako pod.
planets.
Yes.
Okay, they also revolved around the sun. However, they have a very elongated orbit. They move very slowly but remain in our sight for weeks before disappearing out of view.
So as you can see there on your screen right now, no, very elongated ang orbit ni comet, Sir Louis. Unlike the orbit of the other planets, which is most likely circular, however, dili gyud siya circular orbit, ang kuan gyud ang comet, Sir Louis, is very elongated. So as the comet gets closer to the sun, some of the ice starts to melt and boil off. So as a result, dust particles are released. So these particles and gases make a cloud around the nucleus called a coma. So the nucleus and coma are the composition of the head of the comet. So the head becomes bigger as more gas and dust particles are released. So another part of the comet is the dust tail, which is caused by the radiation of the sun. So that pushes the dust particles away from the coma. So in some comets, Sir Louis, the dust tail can reach up to 150 million kilometers in length. Imagine na ka ang layo niya, no?
Layo kaysa nga tanong.
Million kilometers in length.
Okay. Comets are classified based on the duration of their orbit around the sun. They could be a short period or long period comets. Okay, short period comets take 200 years or less to complete one orbit, which may have come from Kuiper belt beyond Neptune's orbit, whose gravitational interactions with the outer planet allow them to be dragged inward. So layo na jud kay na siya sa nga tanan,
Yes,
ma'am.
beyond
Mary
Neptune's
Chris.
orbit na siya, sir.
Okay.
Mo nang no wonder 200 years gid pud iyahang complete revolution around the sun. Unlike Earth which only take 1 year. Kana times 200 yun ang mga comets.
Okay, on the other hand, long period comets take more than 200 years to complete one orbit and are believed to come from the Oort cloud.
If what you have said earlier, Sir Luino, if mas layo si Kuiper belt, pinakalayo gid pud si Oort cloud. That's why it will take those comets
Nasa
to
ang solar
yes, to
system.
revolve more than 200 years. So comets leave a trail of debris behind them that can lead to meteor showers on Earth. So now let's come to know about meteors. So unsa magiding mga meteors, Sir Louis? So meteors are actually space rocks or meteoroids that enter Earth's atmosphere. So in other words, a meteor is what happens when a meteoroid burns up upon entering Earth's atmosphere, creating a streak of light. So the common misconception of meteors, Sir Luino, is that they are falling or shooting stars, no? Kay magilak-gilak manggod.
Mga shooting star.
Yes. However, they can't be called stars because, again, stars are luminous, meaning to say they can produce their own light. However, the light created by the meteors is just the result, the result of the burning up of that space rock. So they just appear to glow again because as they enter the Earth's atmosphere, they burn up due to friction between air molecules sa atmosphere
yes.
as well as the rock.
Okay, just a piece of information as shown on your screen. We call the celestial object meteoroid
Yes.
if it is still in the outer space.
So meaning to
Okay.
say bato-bato pa siya sa
Yes,
outer
bato-bato
space.
pa siya sa outer space. Meteors, if enters the Earth atmosphere, and meteorite once they landed on the Earth surface.
So that's right. So same ra na sila, Sir Luino. However, their name differs
on the
on their location. Oo.
Sa location,
Kung asa sila na-locate ang mga space rocks.
Okay, meteoroids could be dust remains from the solar system formation, fragments from the collisions of asteroids, or left over from the dust tail of the comets.
So daghan di ay ang gigikanan sa meteoroids. Pwede siya, Sir Luino,
From
sa
asteroid,
from asteroid nga collision,
yes.
or it could be sa dust tail katong sa comets. So once the Earth's atmosphere passes through any one form of meteoroid, these small dust or debris will become meteors. So some burns up before they landed in the Earth's surface, while others can successfully enter, which we now call meteorites.
So,
So
kato na gyud ang mga dagko, Ma'am Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Og
So,
mga gagmay lang, so mahilis man
mahilis
siya.
na siya diretso sa Earth's atmosphere, pero kung dagko siya nga mga space rocks, na possibility nga maka-land yun siya sa Earth's surface.
Okay, as what you have seen from the video, meteors can give off various colors based on the rock composition.
That's right.
Okay, orange, yellow, we have
Sodium.
yellow, iron, blue-green, magnesium, violet, calcium, and red, the atmospheric nitrogen and the oxygen.
That's right. So, we're done with comets and meteors. This time, let's talk about asteroids. So, asteroids, Sir Louis, are simply rocky or metallic objects orbiting the sun in the same way the planets orbit. However, asteroids are hard to see because they are reflecting little light and they are always moving. But they can be called minor planets or planetoids. Meaning to say, dagko ni sila nga mga rock materials, unlike sa mga meteoroids. Because meteoroids, they're just product of the collision
Yes.
sa asteroids. So that's why they can be classified as minor planet or planetoids.
Okay, most of the asteroids are found in the asteroid belt. This is the region between planet Mars and
Jupiter.
The largest asteroid, which is Ceres, is found in the asteroid belt. It is also considered as
Dwarf planet.
So ang location niya, Ma'am Mary Chris, no, is
Nasa
nagyan siya
asteroid belt.
Yes, kanang between
Mars and
the
Jupiter. Tawag yun siya belt because mura yun siya bakos. Sir Louis, as shown on your screen right now nga, surrounding or in between planet Mars and Jupiter, mura yun siya bakos nga naglirong surrounding the sun. So, there's also a possibility that asteroids can be pulled by larger objects such as planets kay gamay raman po dihang gravitational pull manggod pod. So, as a result, the captured asteroids will become satellites of that certain planet. So, mahimo siyang satellite. So, when we say satellite, these are objects revolving around a certain planet, just like our moon. Moon is a natural satellite of our planet Earth. So, example of that planet is Mars, having two satellites, Phobos and Deimos, which are believed to be captured asteroids. So this also explains why Jupiter has the highest number of satellites. Actually, among the planets, good Sir Louis, Jupiter has the highest number, daghan jud kay na siyang moons. So thanks to planet Jupiter, its gravitational pull causes the asteroids to keep in orbit away from the inner planets.
Okay, to review what we have discussed about comets, meteors, and asteroids, let's have this table. Okay, for comets, Ma'am Mary Chris, comets are rock dust wrapped around a big ball of ice, which are found in the outer part of the solar system.
Okay, so on the other hand, meteors are space rocks or meteoroids that enter Earth's atmosphere.
Okay, and asteroids are rocky or metallic objects usually found between Mars and Jupiter.
Okay, so that's it. All about meteors, comets, and asteroids. Now, for your activity learners, you only have to fill in the Venn diagram in your self-learning material to compare and contrast these three important astronomical objects. So stay tuned because we will be right back after a short break. This is
Astral Academy
Cyber School.
Dali na mag-science na kita, mag-observe o mag-discover ta, living things o non-living things, mga stars o mga planeta. Dali na mag-science na kita, mag-observe o mag-discover ta, living things o non-living things, mga stars o mga planeta, mga stars o mga planeta, mga stars o mga planeta.
radyo, lina at matuto sa mga aral sa mundo. Tayo na. Tumutok na sa TV, mag-aral ng maigi to get the lessons easily. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. Tayo na. Let's come and learn together, supporting one another. We love, we care, we share. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time. We learn all things, it's very fine, masaya. Tutok na. It's tangkop, tangkop, tangkop time.
Dili na, oy. We are back still here in Astral Academy Cyber School. Okay, so ganina Merry Christmas is na-discuss na to ang Science 8. So this time, we will going to discuss on Science 9. And our learning competency is use the mole concept to express mass of substances.
So in the previous science lessons, the learners were introduced to the concept of mass. So in physics, mass refers to the quantity or the amount of matter found in a certain body. So this can be a good foundation to start the mole concept.
Okay, the reason why learners need to understand this topic because most quantitative chemical calculations are based on the mole. And understanding of the mole is vital to the study of chemistry. This is for a reason that mole is the fundamental unit when we refer to the amount of substance present in a particular object or solution. Example is the organic compound alcohol, which is composed of different elements or atom. In order to get the corresponding mass of a certain element in alcohol, we need to use the mole concept.
So mole by definition in chemistry is a standard scientific unit for measuring large quantities of a very small entities such as atoms, molecules, or other specified particles. So a mole is a quantity that allows chemists to convert from the atomic scale to macroscopic scale. So meaning to say, from a smaller scale, which is in the atom unit, to macroscopic or to a larger unit or scale.
Okay, the mole concept is a convenient method of expressing the amount of a substance. Any measurement can be broken down into two parts, the numerical magnitude and the unit that the magnitude is expressed in. For example, when the mass of a ball is measured to be 2 kilograms, the magnitude is 2 and the unit is kilogram.
Okay. So, the number 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 is popularly known as Avogadro's constant. So ato isulat na Sir Luigi, no? We have there Avogadro's constant, 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23. Okay. Or it is also called as Avogadro's number. And it is often denoted by the symbol N subscript A. This constant refers to the number of particles in 1 mole of a substance. So the elementary entities that can be represented in moles can be atoms, it could also be molecules, ions, and other particles such as electrons. So this number or constant is attributed to the Italian scientist Amedeo Avogadro. So let's have this example. A 1 mole of pure substance. 1 mole of pure substance, which is carbon. Carbon 12. So a 1 mole of carbon 12 has a mass of, so its mass is 12 grams. So 12 is the magnitude, gram is the unit. So in a 1 mole of carbon 12, it contains Avogadro's constant, which is 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23. Meaning to say, in a 1 mole of carbon 12, that is the number of particles present in that specific atom. The 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23.
Okay, the number of moles of a molecule may not always be equal to the number of moles of its constituent elements. Okay, for example, a mole of water contains an A number of H2O molecules.
Okay.
However, each water molecules contains 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atoms. Therefore, 1 mole of H2O contains 2 moles of hydrogen and 1 mole of oxygen.
Okay. So I am writing it this way, no, Sir Louis. A 1 mole of water has, so 1 mole of water has 2 moles of hydrogen and 1 mole of
oxygen.
Okay. So let's have this sample problem, Sir Louis, no? How many molecules are there in 4 moles of NaCl, or commonly known as table salt? So to answer this question, you have to consider again this Avogadro's constant. Wherein 1 mole of a substance is equivalent to
6.02 times 10 to the power of 23.
That's right. Again, 1 mole of a substance is equal to 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 particles or molecules. So using the dimensional analysis approach, you'll be able to convert the number of moles to its equivalent amount of number of particles. So again, we have the given value. We have 4 moles of NaCl. And the problem or the question is, how many molecules are there in 4 moles of NaCl? So by using the conversion method, again, we need to make sure that the mole NaCl will be eliminated or will be crashed out. So what we're going to do here, Sir Louis, is we need to put in the denominator part the unit mole.
Yes.
So we have there 1 mole. And in the numerator part is the Avogadro's constant, which is
0.02 times 10 to the power of 23.
23 molecules. So again, the mole or the unit mole is now eliminated or cancelled out. So what's left is the unit molecules. So by multiplying 4 to 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23, it would yield to
41
times 10.
times 10 to the 24 power.
Okay. So in other words, in 4 moles of NaCl, there are 2.41 times 10 to the power of 24 molecules. So imagine na, ang atomic scale gi-convert to macroscopic scale, mo na nanatay times 10 to the power of 24. Nga na nakalaya or nga na nakadakua ang value niya.
Okay, now let's proceed to the molar mass of an element after getting or solving for the moles. But before that, let's unlock first the different terminologies such as atomic mass, molecular mass, and the molar mass.
So the atomic mass of an element, Sir Louis, is the mass of one atom of the element expressed in atomic mass unit. So it is roughly equal to the sum of all protons and neutrons. So again, no, ang atomic mass, Sir Louis, is expressed as in the unit AMU. Okay. So atomic mass with the unit AMU. So this is basically the sum of the total number of protons and the total number of electrons in a particular atom or element. So again, we have here atomic mass is equal to the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. So recall, these two terms are basically subatomic particles which are found in the nucleus of an atom. Now, for example, the element carbon. So in the element carbon, if you have there the periodic table of elements at home, carbon belongs to group 6. So its atomic number is 6. So atomic number is basically equal to the number of protons. Okay. So if the atomic number of carbon is 6, therefore the number of protons is 6. And the number of neutrons for carbon is actually equal to 6.01. Therefore, if we add them, or if we get the sum of the number of protons and the number of neutrons, it would be equal to 12.01. This is basically the atomic mass of the element carbon. Okay?
Okay, the molecular mass of a substance is the sum of the atomic masses of all its constituent elements. This quantity is also represented in terms of atomic mass units or AMU.
Okay. So for the molecular mass, for example, we have here the atom, which is, or the molecule water. So let's have molecular mass. Again, the unit for molecular mass is still expressed in AMU or atomic mass unit. So for water, again, the chemical formula for water is H2O. So H2O meaning to say there are 2 atoms of hydrogen and we also have 1 atom of oxygen. Now, in order to get the molecular mass of water, we need to consider the atomic mass of its constituent elements. So we have here a sample. Let's flip our table, Sir Louis. So we have here a sample of some elements under the periodic table with its atomic masses. So like for example, oxygen. So 8 is actually the atomic number or the number of protons. This 15.999 is the atomic mass. So this is the atomic mass. For hydrogen, 1 is atomic number. The 1.0078 is the atomic mass. We also have for nitrogen or N.
We have 7 atomic number and 14.01 atomic mass.
Okay. And lastly, carbon.
We have 6 atomic number and 12.011 atomic mass.
Okay. So if we are dealing with calculations, Sir Louis, it is very important to set convention on the number of decimal places. So for our discussion, we will be setting to 2 decimal places only. So again, we have the constituent elements hydrogen and oxygen. So looking back to our illustration, hydrogen has atomic mass of
1.0078.
okay, by rounding it off to 2 decimal places, we now have 1.01. Okay. So since we have 2 atoms of hydrogen, we need to multiply the atomic mass by 2. So that is 1.01.
01 to 2.02.
Okay, the unit is AMU or atomic mass unit. And
for
for
hydrogen, for oxygen,
so the atomic mass of oxygen is
15.999.
okay. So if we set it to 2 decimal places, so that would be equal to 0.00. Therefore, since we only have 1 atom of oxygen in water molecule, so we will multiply it by 1. Okay. Therefore, we have 16 AMU. Therefore, the molecular mass of water is the sum of 2 moles of hydrogen, which is 2.2, and 1 atom of oxygen, which is 16.
18.00. So the total is 18.02 grams or
AMU. Okay? Now, let's proceed with finding the molar mass of a certain molecule. Like, for example, if we need to, what's different between molecular mass and molar mass is that in molar mass, we will now be considering the gram per mole or the quantity of that certain particle per mole or unit mole. Sa molecular mass, only the kuan niya ang yang gibugaton ra sa quantity. However, for molar mass, it refers now to the gram per mole. Okay, for example, if we need to solve for the molar mass of water molecule, di nata mulayo, Sir Luino, water molecule na ta diretso. So for water molecule, again, it is composed of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So in every mole of hydrogen, it is equivalent to 1.01 gram. So, anaon lang siya para makuha ang iyang molar mass. Okay? For oxygen, so ato lang siyang punan og unit, Sir Luino. So, in every 1 mole of oxygen, we have 16 grams. Okay? Therefore, still we have 2.02 gram per mole. We also have 16 grams per mole. Therefore, the molar mass of water molecule H2O is 18. Dili natin butang, no? 18.02 grams per mole. Okay? So, another example is the ammonia. So, ammonia is a compound with constituent elements nitrogen and hydrogen. Okay. So again, it is very important to know the constituent elements of that particular compound. So for ammonia, that is NH3. Therefore, we have 1 mole of nitrogen, and we also have 3 moles of hydrogen. So again, if we look back on our illustration here, the atomic mass of nitrogen
we
is
have 14.01.
Okay.
And for
hydrogen,
we have 1.01.
okay. So in every 1 mole of nitrogen, we have 14.01 grams. And in every 1 mole of hydrogen, we have
1.008
Okay, 1.01 gram per mole. Again, we have the number 3 here because the compound ammonia has 3 moles of hydrogen. So, by doing the math, so 14.01 plus 3 times 3 times 1.01, that will be equal to 3.03. So again, it's very important not to write the unit because we are now referring to molar mass. Okay. So, what is the sum? 14.01 plus 3.03, that is equivalent to 17.04 grams per mole. Okay? So I hope that the mole concept is now clear to you, no? Grade 9 learners, you only have to base your atomic mass on the periodic table of elements.
Okay, stay tuned because we will be right back after a short break. This is
Astral Academy Cyber School.
Edukasyon sa pagpapakatao ang kailangan ng mundo.
And we are back still here in Astral Academy Cyber School. Okay, so this time, Ma'am Mary Chris, no, ang ato na pong i-discuss is
Science 10.
And our learning competency is explain the basic principles of magnetism.
So magnetism is one aspect of the combined electromagnetic force. So it refers to the physical phenomena arising from the force caused by magnets. So in other words, magnets are objects that produce fields that attract or repel other objects.
Okay, there are different classifications of magnetic substances
Or
its ability to be attracted or repelled.
Repelled.
First is ferromagnetic substances are those material which exhibit strong magnetism. Examples are iron, steel, nickel, and cobalt. Second is paramagnetic substance. Paramagnetic materials are materials that tend to get weakly magnetized or slightly attracted by strong magnets. Examples are wood, aluminum, platinum, and oxygen. We also have diamagnetic materials, which is described as non-magnetic.
okay. So aside from being mentioned the ferromagnetic, paramagnetic, and diamagnetic materials, there are also substances that are already magnetized. So we call it magnetite or natural or permanent magnets. So examples are lodestones and alnico. So alnico is a permanent magnet which is basically a combination of the elements aluminum, nickel, and cobalt. So on the other hand, there are also materials that can be made into magnets. So these are called artificial magnets. So they can be made by induced magnetism. So induced means brought into or stimulate to become magnets. So example of this is shown on your screen as an electromagnet,
wherein electricity drives a ferromagnetic material to attract other magnetic materials. Pero kung i-off na to ang kuryente, of course, it will no longer become a magnet.
Okay, speaking of magnets, let's know their basic principles. One principle is the state of polarity, wherein magnet, regardless of size and shape, always has two polar regions called the north and south magnetic pole. The end of the magnet that points north is called the north magnetic pole, and the end that points south is the south magnetic pole. You can't produce a magnet with only one pole, Ma'am Chris.
Yes.
Therefore, if a magnet is broken into pieces, each piece will have its north and south pole.
That makes it a magnet, a polar one, or a polar object.
Yes.
So another principle of magnetism is that opposites attract. Daghan siya kay meaning ana, no, Sir Louis, basta opposites attract. So in other words, in magnets, like poles repel, opposite poles attract. So when the north pole of the magnet is placed near to the south pole or vice versa, so they will attract each other. Kay opposite man sila, Sir Louis, the north and south. So magsugat gid sila. However, when the north pole of the magnet is placed near the north pole of the other magnet, they will repel each other. No matter how close you bring them to each other, meaning to say, parehat ta og like. So meaning to say, we cannot be attracted to each other. So nga na, no?
Okay, next principle of magnetism talks about the ability of the materials to be attracted or magnetized. Recall that ferromagnetic materials are the ones having the property to be attracted. Okay. In a ferromagnetic material, smaller groups of atoms band together forming a magnetic domain. We can simply describe it as a group of small magnets within a material. When now magnet is brought closer to the material, these magnetic domains are randomly arranged or lined up. However, when a magnet is brought close to the material, the domains line up in a definite pattern. All the north poles point in one direction and the south poles in the other.
Okay. So next basic principle of magnetism is its magnetic force. So the closer you bring two magnets together, the force between the stronger the force between them becomes. And when you move them apart, and the force gets weaker. Therefore, the strength of magnetic force relies on the distance between two magnetic materials. This will lead us to the next principle of magnetism, which is the concept of magnetic field. So a magnetic field is an area or a region surrounding the magnet wherein an object experiences a force. Like for example, Sir Louis, if we have here an object in front of us, like for example, this one, and if we drop it, sala lang Sir Louis, ha? So as you can see, Sir Louis, no, wala gid siya nasalo. So as you can see, it falls down. So nga no gali na siyang mahulog siya, Sir Louis, it's because of the presence of the Earth's gravitational force. So the area here has a gravitational field that pulls the object down. So similar to a magnet, no, Sir Louis? So it has a magnetic field around it.
Thus, when it is placed near a ferromagnetic material, the material experiences a force and gets attracted towards the magnet. This means that the magnetic field is strong near the magnet and it becomes weak far away from the magnet.
Okay, so same principle lang siya sa magnetic force. So before we end this discussion, let us share the basic application of magnetism, which is magnetic compass. So of course, it is very useful, no, in pointing direction. A magnetic compass needle always points to the north. So we call this red end as the north seeking pole or the north pole of the magnet. The other end is the south seeking pole or the south pole of the magnet. So based on the principle that opposite poles attract and like poles repel, so this explains the interesting fact of our planet. So due to the Earth's internal composition and thermal activity, it resulted to the Earth's magnetic property. So we can describe our planet as a big magnet, Sir Louis. So this means that the Earth has a magnetic field and that the magnetic compass aligns along the Earth's magnetic field.
Since the north pole of magnetic compass points towards north,
North.
geographical location, it means that it aligns along the south magnetic pole of the Earth, following the rule of magnets, which is opposite attracts. It means that the south pole of the Earth's magnet is along the north geographical location.
So in other words, the south pole of magnetic compass, which basically points towards the south geographical location, aligns along north magnetic pole of the Earth. So this means that the north pole of the Earth's magnet is along the south geographical location. Meaning to say, Sir Louis, nga sa Earth di ay, if we try to draw the magnet of the Earth, bali di ay siyag orientation. Si north nasa ubos, si south nasa taas. Okay.
That's it about the basic principles of magnetism. We hope that you learned many things about it in the advent of technology advancement. Magnets paved the way in making our lives easier.
Yes.
We can see magnets in our speakers, electronic devices, and gadgets.
That's right. Now for your activity, grade 10 learners, in the first part of your activity is you have to encircle the letter of the best answer. For your activity 2, you have to answer the following questions in at most 3 sentences.
Okay, stay tuned because we will be right back after a short break. This is
Astral Academy Cyber School.
Gali na mag-science na kita, mag-observe o mag-discover ta, living things o non-living things, mga stars o mga planeta. Dali na mag-science na kita, mag-observe o mag-discover ta, living things o non-living things, mga stars o mga planeta, mga stars o mga planeta, mga stars o mga planeta.
And we are back still here in Astral Academy
Cyber
Cyber
School.
School. Okay, so ang atong ikatulong attendance marker makita na dira sa inyong screen.
Screen. So,
Okay, so this time, Ma'am Mary Chris, no, it's time na gid nga magpasalamat sa ato ang executive producer,
Sir
headed by
Gas.
Sir Gas Sepi, our production team, headed by Sir Lay Inayo, and
Yes.
of course, sa atong mga learners nga naa dira sa ilang tagsa-tagsa ka panimalay.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been Luigi Teleron from Silangit National High School.
And Ma'am Mary Chris Malalis from Bintana Integrated School. This is Astral Academy Cyber School. Bye.